Troy here with SFP Nostalgia Motorsports. It's been a long time since I did a video, or at least posted a video, on the Buick Skylark, and that's for two reasons. One, I had a corrupt SD card, which means I lost the videos that I made up to this point with the Buick. But the other roadblock we hit was the car started up fine, ran fine, was pretty quiet, but when I pulled the valve cover, it's not getting much oil into the head. So I have to troubleshoot that. It could be a clogged oil pump screen, could be a bad oil pump, could be some other issues, but I want to look into that before we actually run this car anymore. So instead of getting too frustrated on this at the moment because of the things not working quite right, I'm going to focus some attention on the Falcon and see if we can get that thing started. We've owned that car now for a couple of months and I have not yet heard it run. And trying to get it started, I noticed that the starter solenoid was bad and also it has a bad fuel pump. So what we got here is a brand new starter solenoid and a brand new mechanical fuel pump. The car came with a Mr. Gasket electric fuel pump that was put on by the previous owner in an attempt just to let people hear the car run, but that fuel pump obviously went bad as well. So I picked up an original style fuel pump, mechanical fuel pump for the car, and we're going to put that on right now. Just goes on with common hand tools, both of these items. You'll need an assortment of wrenches. You'll need a 7/16, 3/8, ½ inch, and also a 9/16. The reason we need so many different wrenches, we have different size bolts that are actually holding the solenoid onto the firewall. Then we have our positive and negative terminals here on the solenoid, which take a different size. And then we have our various fitting sizes for the mechanical fuel pump. The other thing, just to make our lives easier, I'm going to use my ½ inch ratchet here, ½ inch socket with the 3/8 inch ratchet to get the fuel pump, the old fuel pump off and install the new one. So let's get started. Let's get started with the easiest part to swap out, which would be the starter solenoid. Before you do anything, always make sure that it is the exact same part that you're taking off. And this one is. Just a few wrenches needed for this. We have our ½ inch wrench for your positive and negative, and then your 3/8 inch for the actual mounting to the inner fender. All the wires connected, that's all there is to it. Brand new solenoid installed and all connected. Now let's move on to the fuel pump. Now with your new fuel pump, you will have to put in your new inlet fitting and new outlet fitting, or if you have them available, just use your old ones that came off your old pump, which is what we're doing here. A couple common sense items to do before you put your new fuel pump on is to prep the surface, clean up the surface on the block, and then also we're going to put some grease on this new gasket before we install it. Also, we're going to put grease on the lever for the fuel pump. Because this is a wear point, we want to make sure that it lasts long, so we're going to put grease on it first. Now here's the new fuel line arrangement. What I did was I'm putting on a real cheap Mr. Gasket inline fuel line just to prevent any clogging at the carburetor. What I like to do is make sure that I have all of my hose clamps oriented so that it's easy for me to adjust them and tighten them up with them on the car. So make sure you do that. And I always flip them opposite with each other. It's just a habit I do, and usually I double them up so the inlet has two, the outlet has two. I always do that on the Chevelle just to make sure that I don't have a leak when I'm going down the track. But for this, I'll just do one at each location, and that should be good enough to get us started. Now for our ridiculously cheap but effective fuel system that we're going to run. I'm not sure of the condition of the fuel tank on the car, so I'm using this as my fuel tank, and I've put together this ridiculous looking fuel supply line, which I'm going to connect to the inlet side of the fuel pump. Alright, now we have the fuel pump installed, we have our starter solenoid installed, we have our cheap octane boost fuel tank installed, and we borrowed the battery from the Chevelle. So this thing is guaranteed to crank over and start just because of the Chevelle battery, I guess. Let's give it a try. Wish me luck. Hopefully the car doesn't burn down. So can you believe it? It actually started, and I'm not even sure how many years it's been since this thing actually ran. Now it really needs a tune-up, it really needs a carburetor rebuild because it's puking gas everywhere. And also the other thing is, I noticed that it's starting to spit fuel out of the vent tube, which could be a couple things. It could be a carburetor problem, it's definitely something with the float, but these carburetors are notorious for flooding. So it's the old Autolite carburetor, single barrel. So I do have to look into that and try to come up with some type of a solution, whether it be the rebuild only, or it could potentially take a fuel pressure regulator, because these are really finicky carburetors when it comes to fuel pressure. So what did we learn today? If one project pisses you off, just start working on another one and make it a success. Thanks everyone for watching. Till next time, see you later.